Here we're going to fill in our T accounts for Amanda's campus delivery. And so here in our company name, Amanda's campus delivery. Okay, and this is our T accounts for that, and you could put your own name up at the top if you were hand submitting this for, especially as an attachment to your exam. Okay, so I have made these Excel T accounts. So there's a whole bunch of T accounts. The only one of them that I actually put a name to, cash, is always the biggest. It always has the most amount of transactions, so I put a lot of lines in the cash one. Okay, the rest of them you can just fill in the titles to those accounts as necessary. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. We've got accounts receivable. And we have supplies. We have prepaid insurance. I'm going right by the chart of accounts. Okay, we have delivery equipment. Okay, now we have accounts payable. Okay, down here, I'm going to put the AA, comma, capital. It's usually a small, needs a small T account, and AA, comma, drawing. And then we've got our delivery fees. So let's see what all we've got here. Okay, put delivery fees over here. Okay, and we've got wages, rent, and telephone are our expenses. Okay, so we have wages expense, rent expense, phone expense. Okay, so now we have a T account for each and every account that's in the chart of accounts, and they're roughly in a semblance of order. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is go back to my analyzing transactions, and I'm going to start with page 1 with the first transaction. Now, we'd already filled all these out, including the debit and credit. We've already put our number there, so we know what the number is. So here I need to debit cash $2,000. So I go to my T accounts, and a debit is a left side number, 2,000. So I'm going to left side cash 2,000. Okay. And then I'm going to credit AA capital 2,000. So credit is on the right side. Credit means right side. So I find AA capital, and on the right side, I put the 2,000. Go to the next transaction. Here I have a debit to delivery equipment and a credit to cash of $1,200. So I'll start with the debit to delivery equipment. Okay, so I find delivery equipment. Here it is. And that was a debit, which is left side, $1,200. Okay. And then I have a credit to cash of $1,200. So I find my cash. Credit is right side, $1,200 on the right side of cash. Go down to the next transaction. I have a debit to delivery equipment and a credit to accounts payable of $900. So I'll start with the debit of delivery equipment. I find delivery equipment. Debit means left side. I'm going to put $900 on the left side of delivery equipment. And I have a credit to accounts payable. Credit means right side. So I find accounts payable, and the right side, I'm going to put the $900. So this is just doing what you're told yourself you're going to do. Here I'm going to debit accounts payable and credit cash for $300. So I'm going to debit accounts payable. That's left side accounts payable for $300. And I said I was going to credit cash for $300. Next transaction. I have a debit to cash and a credit to delivery fees for $500. Debit to cash for $500. That's left side cash for $500. And a credit, right side, to delivery fees for $500. Next one, I have a debit to rent expense and a credit to cash for $200. A debit to rent expense, a credit to cash for $200. So I'm going to debit left side rent expense for $200 and credit right side cash for $200. Always making sure that whatever you do to a credit side, you do to a debit side and vice versa. Okay? Next transaction. We have a debit to phone expense and a credit to cash for $50. Okay, debit to phone expense. Here's phone expense. The debit is a left side and a credit to cash. Credit is right side to the cash for $50. Okay, here we have a debit to accounts receivable and a credit to delivery fees for $600. Debit to accounts receivable, credit to delivery fees for $600. Okay, here's our accounts receivable. We have a debit of $600 and we have a credit to delivery fees of $600. Okay. Now you can see here that if you have made a mistake on your analyzing sheets, then it's going to be wrong on your T accounts. But when I look at these on the exam, I'm going to be looking to see if you did what you said you were going to do, even if it's wrong. So if you did what you said you were going to do, and it's wrong, you'll get some points off your analyzing sheets because that's where you made the mistake. But your T accounts, you know, I won't take points off of there as long as you do what you said you were going to do. All right. here we have a debit to supplies, a credit to cash for 80. Debit to supplies, credit to cash for 80. Okay, so we find our supplies. That was 80 debit, and cash was an 80 credit. Next transaction, we have debit to prepaid insurance and a credit to cash for 200. Okay, debit to prepaid insurance, left side prepaid insurance, credit to cash for 200. Okay. Here we have a debit to cash and a credit to accounts receivable for 570. A debit to cash and a credit to accounts receivable for 570. So we have a debit to cash, left side cash for 570, and a credit to accounts receivable, right side accounts receivable for 570. Okay, here we have our three-parter. So now we have to pay attention. I've got a debit of $1,500 to delivery equipment. So I go to my delivery equipment. I've got a debit of $1,500. Okay. Then I look at my credits. I have two credits. I got a credit to cash of $300, and I got a credit to accounts payable of $1,200. So I got a credit to cash of $300, and I got a credit to accounts payable of $1,200. Okay, good. Okay. Next one, I've got a debit to wages expense and a credit to cash for $650. Debit to wages, credit to cash for $650. Okay. So I find wages expense, debit of $650, and I've got a credit to cash, right side cash for $650. Okay, next one, I've got a debit to cash and a credit to delivery fees for $430. Debit cash, credit delivery fees for $430. Okay, so I debit cash for $430 and credit delivery fees for $430. Okay, and then I go to third page. I got a debit to accounts receivable and a credit to delivery fees for $620. Debit to accounts receivable for $620 and a credit to delivery fees for $620. And a final one, debit to drawing and credit to cash for $150. Debit to drawing, credit to cash for $150. Okay, debit to drawing, credit to cash for $150. All right, so now we have all of our transactions put in, and I made these so that they make your footings. So all the debit and credit footings are made. Now we just have to balance them. So I take the big number, 3,500, minus the small number of 3,130. And that's $370 balance. I put it under the big number. So 370 is the big number. Okay? Everything that only has one number such as these supplies or prepaid insurance. I don't need to do